Hello and welcome to the very first deathless speedrun of Marvel It Up in 34 minutes and 42 seconds by Spacekitty. My name is Dude, and I'll be providing commentary for this run. And let's just get right into it, shall we? Alright, so starting out here in the very first level, and Spacekitty is using the normal strategies. This is a physics-based game, and so every collision that the Marvel has with the environment is it's all modeled in real time. Every angle, every bounce. If you've seen this game before, you know what to expect. If you're familiar with maybe something like Super Monkey Ball, you can see Spacekitty has direct control of the marble here. And he's able to jump. One of the objectives on many of these levels, as you can see here, is Spacekitty has to pick up all of the gems on this level before the goal will open up. So that's one of the objectives of some of these levels. You have to collect all the gems. Here on Up the Wall, nice little skip here that he can take. Saves quite a bit of time versus going all the way around. And you can see there are items, there are power-ups. The one that was just used there was a super jump. Here you're going to see a super speed on full speed ahead. And that super speed is going to be used to ram into this rock right on a specific seam in between two surfaces and pull off that awesome skip. Alright. Now this one here is another relatively precise skip. You're going to hit this rock, high speed, and launch all the way to the goal. Really, really good. Stay frosty there. Now there are these pause buttons lying around, and what they are is they actually slow down the in-game timer. So timer manipulation is a really important part of individual level speedrunning. And because this is an RTA, that's a real-time attack speedrun, Spacekitty can more or less ignore those and zoom to the finish. Now he finished Chapter 1 in just 2 minutes flat, which is phenomenal, by the way. The world record right now on the leaderboards for Chapter 1 individual chapter RTA is 1 minute 58.98 seconds by Woody. And so if just this segment of the run were submitted to the chapter RTA leaderboard, it would be in second place, which is crazy. Kitty pulls off a great little transit skip there. Actually, Hatchet, one of our most experienced players on this level, we did an RTA race recently, and he missed that skip twice. To tell you how tricky it can be sometimes. And Kitty goes for some pretty crazy, risky strats in order to set this world record time, which is amazing because, like I said, this will be the very, very first deathless speedrun of this game that's ever been completed, and to anyone's knowledge, the first deathless playthrough that's ever happened. You can see these bumper obstacles that he's going to use to gain himself a little bit of height, a little bit of speed in some places, and you definitely have to approach those at the perfect angle if you don't want to get thrown off the wrong way. Over the garden wall. Pretty quick here. And there are 60 levels that he has to beat in this 34 minutes and 42 second time frame that you're going to see. Some of them have some pretty big skips. Other ones are a little more straightforward. And then you've got the gem levels like these, and well, there's only so much you can do about those. But keeping a good pace, like I said, an absolutely world-class Chapter 1. And Spacekitty in general is a world-class player of this game. He's only been running this full game RTA category for a few weeks, which makes it all the more impressive that he's been able to take the record down as much as he has, alongside another one of our players who picked it up around the same time named Katz's. This level's big easy, so you can see there's lots of curves, there's lots of bumps, and while there's not really a specific route planned, Spacekitty has to look ahead and kind of get a sense of where he's going and then respond to the changes in the circumstances to direct the marble in more or less the direction that he wants to go. This is a feather fall. It's a power-up which essentially lowers gravity, or the effect of gravity on the marble. He can use that to skip to the end of this level. Triple Divide. This is a relatively new route that came out in the last few weeks, at least for the purposes of real-time attack speedruns. Spacekitty showing off a fair amount of skill, landing that. Thread the Needle is the last level in our Chapter 2. And this is, while it is, you know, Spacekitty does a good job with it, there is a potential route which could be used for RTA. Nobody's really tried integrating it yet into their full game speedruns, but it involves using this super jump here, and that loop you can see over on the right now, to essentially skip all the way to the gem, which is at the top of the level. Spacekitty's just going to take the way that everybody else does, which is to ride this elevator to the top. Could save about 10 seconds in the future. Just looking forward to where speedruns of this game could go. Now that's the end of Chapter 2, and Chapter 2 was done in 4 minutes and 15 seconds. And once again, the world record is 4 minutes and 12 seconds for individual chapters. So that's just grinding Chapter 2 over and over. Hatchet got that time. It's a great time. And at only 3 seconds slower, Spacekitty just set a second place record for Chapter 2 in the middle of a full game speedrun, which is absolutely crazy. This is elevator action, and there's a real trick to this. Getting it on your first try is always really satisfying, and you know, Spacekitty does that. The run really starts to pick up here when we're in Chapter 3. You saw that skip on Sugar Rush not long ago. You see this skip on elevator action, and there are all kinds of these things. This new skip that he's doing was really just integrated into RTA runs in the last week. To see that speedball skip, which is really quite impressive, and you know, for a long time I consider it to be too risky, and as well as some of the other runners did. Not much is happening here on Icy Ascent. River Vantage. This is another one of those levels that is very ripe for potential skips. There are some amazing skips that are done in individual level speedruns, and the routes are crazy fast. There is an easier version of it that used to be the world record route for individual level speedruns. That, again, while nobody's implemented it so far, it could be possible to use in an RTA to save a little bit more time. This is off kilter, and this is definitely fun to watch. You can see there's a gravity platform that twists around, and Spacekitty just ignores it and flies right to the goal. Saves a lot of time doing that. And now we're on 4 stairs where he has to get some gems. But now at this point, Spacekitty is kind of starting to look forward toward one of the bigger skips that comes up with this run. And that run takes place on Cog Valley, and you'll see why it's such a big skip in just a few minutes. First, we have to do Totally Tubular, which again looks really cool and really flashy. Pretty trivial for a player of Spacekitty's skill level. See, he just launches out of the tube. Uses the feather fall at the right time, and you can glide right in there. Time Capsule. This one's pretty interesting from an RTA perspective, real-time attack, because the whole level was built around timer manipulation with those time travels that you see everywhere. So again, whether you pick those up, whether you don't pick those up, it makes no difference in an RTA. So the routing is different, and now we're getting ready for Cog Valley. Now this is a skip that we affectionately call Pog Valley in the Marble Up community, because it's just so cool. And it's not easy. Getting this on the first try is always a huge relief, and just look at this. Wow, the collision sends you way over, and Spacekitty finishes Chapter 3 in 3 minutes and 51 seconds. And the world record is 3 minutes and 50 seconds by Katz's. So by 1 second, once again, he takes a second place time on the chapter leaderboards, beating out several players who have grinded that chapter individually over and over, which is very, very impressive. Now we're coming up to looking into Chapter 4. And you might have heard that there was what we like to call a bump scare. It's kind of a blessing. Considered to be good fortune by Marvel Up speedrunners everywhere. We hear the sound of the bumper. Now this ending, this braid route, was just implemented recently. And Spacekitty is one of maybe 2 people who's using it in RTA speedruns. Very, very cool. Now, Sunspire is one of 3 levels that I would consider to be more of an auto-scroller level. There's definitely areas in between. Now, all of these 3 auto-scroller levels I'm talking about, they all have some manner of skips in individual level speedruns. So they're able to skip at least part of the auto-scrolling sections. But for RTA, it's just not doable. We'd love to see those someday in the future, but with the current consistency, there's no way it could be done. Not even in chapter speedrun, honestly. But full game is just out of the question. Still, 45 seconds is a good time there. And there's always lots going on in Chapter 4 especially. We'll get a bit more of a break in Chapter 5 when things start to slow down again. Spacekitty's on an amazing pace right now. It's kind of hard when you can't see the splits. If you're used to watching speedruns, you know splits give you an idea of what kind of progress, how far ahead, how far behind the runner might be at a given time. Right now, I would say, compared to his previous world record, which, let's say he's a good 7 to 8 seconds ahead at the moment. Which, if you saw the previous world record, was pretty great on its own. Now, getting that skip he just did on Retrograde Rally, again, is not something you can always count on, even as one of the runners who's been doing this for a long time, as much as anyone at least. Spacekitty goes for a slightly older route. I wouldn't call it outdated necessarily, but he could be saving a second or 2 by doing a new route. Overall, this is what he's comfortable with. This is what's consistent for him, and that's what he's going to do until it's going to be required for him to beat his own time to implement a new strategy. Although implementing new strategies is something Spacekitty's done a lot in this run, and you'll see a lot more of that later. This start on Acrophobia is actually considered to be the safe method, despite the crazy collisions and edge hits and everything like that. Just going to quickly zip around the level. Dire Straits is coming up next, and if you've seen this speedrun, really fun. He's going to jump ahead, avoiding these bashers. quick turnaround and jump all the way to the gem. These bashers are on a cycle, so it does somewhat limit the speed that Spacekitty can tackle this level at. In theory, he could go for a faster cycle, but that comes with a certain amount of risk. So still with a really respectable time finishing the level. Ex Machina looks pretty cool. Pretty simple level overall for a speedrunner. Straightforward if you know where the obstacles are and how to avoid them. Now, Diamond in the Sky. This one has some pretty amazing skips that you'd like to see. Right off the bat, picking up speed. And this one has a lot of flat angles. So while it is wide and big like Big Easy, it's a lot more consistent to know where you're going to go when you hit a certain surface. Jumping through the cloud with no vision, and I've actually never seen this this variant of the strategy before, but Spacekitty says it was intentional, and it's more consistent for him, so maybe I'll give that a try myself. And he finishes Chapter 4 in 5 minutes and 48 seconds, and the world record on the leaderboard is 5 minutes and 55 seconds, 0.83 by Katz's, which actually makes what you just saw the world record for Chapter 5 individual chapter speedruns, or Chapter 4 individual chapter speedruns, I should say, which, you know, congratulations, Kitty, for getting a second world record on top of your world record in your world record. Who knew? So this is Chapter 5. Like I said, this one's going to be a little bit slower than Chapter 4. But some clever strategy coming in. I believe Kitty actually developed this strategy for Arky by himself. Or not by himself, but you know, building upon what other players have done before him, of course. Lots of gems to collect. And to the finish. Now, Staying Alive is the second auto-scroller and definitely the most significant auto-scroller of this game. Yeah, this is it. You can see those time travels up there for time manipulation. Not going to matter in this run. It's a very leisurely pace. This is the time during a marathon where we'd be reading donations and talking about the weather. It's a good time to take a nap if you're in the middle of a speed run. So actually in the individual level route, right here, you can see that curved surface going around the outside. You just hop onto that and start building up speed so that you can skip the second half of the level in individual levels. It's really, really cool strategy. It's really, really hard to pull off. And I've even heard of some talk of people trying to pull it off in chapter runs. But honestly, I don't know. It could be really difficult. So if you have this game, check out the replay. You can always watch the world record replays online. If you don't have this game, I'm sure you can find a good video of it. Now the task, the tool-assisted speedrun in this game, which is essentially a replay made with tool assists or a practice mode, just skips the whole level. And if you want to see that, you can see it on my own channel. Check out Staying Alive task number 4. Here comes Gordian. Another slower level, not as much happening, although there is one really cool edge hit you can go for, pray for at the end. Some really cool gravity shenanigans going on with this level. I love the design. Not the most exciting from a speedrun perspective, but definitely a lot of fun. So here comes that edge hit, and ooh, I've only gotten that a few times in a run, and it's It's quite satisfying. So here's Crystalline Matrix, and this is another one of those levels that has a really big skip at the very beginning that can send you straight to the finish. Nobody's ever figured out how to do it consistently or how to line it up. There's no setup. You can see he just did a pretty big skip right there by jumping off that crystal and shooting to the goal in 21 seconds. I would love to see some kind of pause buffered setup like they have in Super Monkey Ball or something like that to lower that time down to 8 or 10 seconds or less. That would be really cool. So this is Contraption. This is the other, the final level that I would consider to be an auto-scroller. Although, just like I said, in individual level speedruns, it's very possible to bypass all of the waiting on this. And at the time when that was the world record strategy, there were some players who were doing it really consistently, so you never know. We could be seeing it in RTA someday. Not the current IL strat, that's never going to happen, but one of the older, more consistent strats that used to be the world record. That would be really cool. Uphill both ways. He's going to be really careful not to spark the inverted controls glitch here. This is actually where if you touch a gravity surface which is directly above you, like a 180-degree flip, it can actually invert your left stick controls. So if you want to go left, you have to hold right. If you want to hold right, you have to go left. And it's forwards, it's backwards, backwards, forwards. It is a huge pain, and it could actually kill your run pretty quickly. And the only way to fix it is to either restart the level or fall off and respawn at a checkpoint. So that's actually, believe it or not, that glitch does come into play when routing this level 2, this flip the table, which looks a little confusing. The route is pretty simple for speedrunners, but it's definitely a challenge to learn the first time you do it, assuming you don't have a guide or following anything. Now Vertigo, you can see these tiny lines, these tight ropes almost that Spacekitty has to follow, and believe it or not, those rails on the sides of the rope, they actually make this level a lot harder, because when you jump, anytime you jump, if you're touching the slope, it basically counts as if you're jumping off of a slope and sends you sideways. So you can't really jump at all while you're on these, because there's always the risk that it'll send you off to the side. But 39 seconds, pretty quick from Spacekitty on that level. Not able to take risks, of course, like players do in individual levels, world record runs, but very quick nonetheless. Here comes Warp Core. This is one of 2 or 3 puzzle levels in the game where the main objective is just figuring out how to finish. But it also leaves open for some really cool routes like this one. And Pit of Despair. This is another one of those levels that is basically indistinguishable whether you're watching it in real-time attack like this, or if you're watching the individual level record, which is crazy, or if you're watching the tasks, which is on a whole different level of crazy. So another one that I'd recommend you check out the world record for and the task for, if you have further interest in this game beyond the speedrun. So this is just going to finish up Chapter 5 in 8 minutes and 11 seconds. And believe it or not, the world record on the leaderboard is 8 minutes and 37 seconds. Which again makes that another second chapter world record within this full game world record. Which is crazy. And I will if you can tell from the fact that we just started Chapter 6, there's a huge difficulty spike. And not only is this the first time that anyone's ever beaten the full game without dying, as far as anyone knows, this is the first time anyone's even beaten Chapter 6 once without dying. And there are players who've been playing this game for thousands of hours. So, Kitten makes it look very easy. I mean, not here. This looks really hard. This part is actually pretty easy. But despite how easy Kitten make it look, it's quite a feat to be making it through these levels alive. Now, there is a pretty unfortunate mistake here. Sadly, in just a couple seconds, you'll see he makes a jump for this pillar, and he misses. And this series of mistakes is going to cost Spacekitty about 20 seconds. It's pretty bad, I'm not going to lie. You know, obviously Spacekitty has an immense amount of talent, as well as being one of the most experienced individual level world record holders, and holding a lot of those records himself. But you know what? He's been running this particular category and RTA in general for weeks, not months, not years. So we can forgive his lack of experience. You know, he wasn't quite able to improvise there or to come up with a backup. But he does do those wall gems right there, which are crazy, crazy deceptively hard. Most players, myself included, will speed up the wall and land on the gems. He goes for a significantly faster strat, which would drive most of us crazy. But it looks like, you know, even after losing his composure there for a moment with a mistake, Spacekitty is back on it. And, you know, significant error, no doubt, but still no deaths. So this is Radius, and it's every bit as crazy as it looks at first glance. You've got these moving gravity platforms that also change the direction of gravity as they move because of their curvature. And he's hopping on this gravity platform. He's going to make the fastest cycle. That is getting on this gravity platform right here and making it to the super jump, which is generally considered to be a good thing, obviously. But kind of slows down here, has to wait for things to line up. On a faster cycle, if you were just to YOLO this on the fastest cycle, he could save about 15 seconds. But if he were to slow down and wait a cycle and then do the fast finish, he could actually save about 7 seconds over what just happened. So solid. That's actually a big run killer, Radius is. But there are definitely faster strategies that can be employed in the future for runners, including Spacekitty, who are going to be looking to take this record down. Head in the Clouds, pretty high level. I've seen players get stuck here, casual players, for literally hours. But, you know, Spacekitty is a technical player. He knows the cycles, he knows the patterns. He's able to finish this one up, no problem. Now, Centripetal Force. It's another one which is certainly cycle-based, but you have to pay really close attention to the cycles because being even a very short amount behind doesn't necessarily mean you're going to fail the level, but it does change the patterns completely. And even being ahead can be to your own detriment if you go a little faster than you normally would. So he gets a clear path to the goal after collecting the gems. Escalation. Now, we have this technique we call the kickflip, and it's jumping on this flipping over platform. Pretty crazy, and using the outer edge of the flip to give you some really good height, and combining with a super jump. Big Launch barely makes it, almost misses that one. I'm sure his heart was pounding like crazy for that one. And it's actually really, really precise and really you know, inconsistent, hard to do. So getting it 3 times in one run on your first try is always a relief, no matter how many times you've done it. This is Confluence. This is probably the biggest puzzle level in the game. If you don't know the route, it's going to take a while to learn how to do it. Spacekitty actually implements a brand new strategy that was just discovered a couple days ago, saving maybe 5 seconds over what would have been used before. Similar route though, finishes things up as usual. Now Olympus. This is arguably the most infamous level in the game. So Spacekitty's previous record of the 34-45, his only death was here on Olympus. So I have no doubt that every ounce of his attention and focus is on this level, because getting a deathless run was a big goal for Spacekitty. Now you can see, just like Big Easy before, but to a much greater extent, you can't really control everything that's happening on the screen. All you can do is look ahead and kind of plan. You know what generally works, but you're more influencing the direction of the marble than you are actually controlling the specific lines. At this kind of speed, there's not much you can really do. And you know, sometimes you can find yourself in situations where there's no way you can prevent falling off. You're just going to go out of bounds, and that's really sad. Spacekitty, though, playing it as safe as he can without actually giving up any speed, and he's going to have a couple of close calls. This is a deadly, deadly level. Just the curves and the changes in the surface make things really unpredictable. Like, barely made it over that gap, didn't even try to make the jump so early. But that's just what happens on Olympus. All you can really do is try to guide your marble in the general direction you want to go, where you hope it's going to be safe. So, the world record, and this one doesn't have any timer manipulation or anything like that. The world record for individual levels on this is 202.61, so that's right about now. But in an RTA, the average is actually a lot closer to 2 minutes and 45 seconds. So Spacekitty finishes up in a 2:16, and you know, honestly, that's the best you can ask for. Here comes Tangle, and another recently integrated route that Spacekitty is putting into this run, trying to save as much time as he can. And also, this route is a little bit simpler than before. He's just going to drop down and jump into the gem from below and finish the run. Now, there is one last level. This is Stratosphere. All of the pressure is on Spacekitty right now. All of the pressure to finish the first ever deathless run of this game. There is a loop exit or loop skip that you can do here, saving 3, 4, maybe 5 seconds. Kitty opts not to do it. Not super comfortable with that particular trick. I know I and myself and some other runners are perfectly fine with it, but honestly, if I were in this situation with this amount of pressure, I wouldn't go for it either. You're not going to risk the entire run on getting that one loop skip, which will save you a couple of seconds, right? Now there is another loop skip that comes up. Now this gravity skip itself is pretty cool, very, very fun. Pretty consistent though. You know, kind of hard to learn at first, but Spacekitty has this one down pat. Pretty easy to get consistently once you've learned the strategy thoroughly. With this fast loop, and the last loop right here, he can skip, but again, you know, you're finishing up a world record run, first ever deathless run. How could you risk that on a 4-second time save? And time. That is the end of the run. That is Marble It Up in 34 minutes and 42 seconds by Spacekitty 97. He actually finished Chapter 6 in 10:32, which is, once again, the fastest ever. Like I said, that was the first ever known Chapter 6 completion without a death. So no surprises that he takes the world record by almost 45 seconds there. Very, very impressive. So, hope you enjoyed, and I hope you get to see Kitten in one of his future runs. Thanks for watching.